This is day 2 of the Virginia Farmers Market Association Food Safety Summit. And for those of you that don't know me, I'm Kim Hutchinson. I'm the Executive Director of the Virginia Farmers Market Association and Farmers Market University. The goal of this summit is to give farmers market managers and vendors the information they need to know about food safety requirements in Virginia. We are extremely grateful to the Virginia Department of Health, the Virginia Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services, the Virginia Cooperative Extension, the Virginia Fire Marshal, the Virginia Family Nutrition Program, and the Virginia Alcoholic Beverage Control Authority for their partnership on this event. And we want to thank them for the support of VAFMA and, more importantly, all of Virginia's 356 farmers markets and vendors. Today, we are recording each presenter, and we will share this recording as well as all of the links and resources that they provide, including their presentation decks. These videos and slides will be posted within the next 2 weeks, and an email will go out to each of you that have registered to the email address that you provided with the information available, as well as your certificate of participation. I'm going to ask you today to please drop all of your questions in the Q&A. If you are on your computer, the Q&A is down at the bottom. It's a box with a question mark in it, and it has Q&A underneath of it. Thank you all for letting me know that you're here. I promise you the link that you were sent for your registration is an individual link to you, and it lets us know that you are participating. So we've got you captured. If you have more than one person in your office, I know some of you have brought in all of your vendors, please shoot us an email or drop it into the chat or Q&A, the Q&A. Please drop it into the Q&A, all of the individuals within your organization that are there today, so that we can make sure that we capture them, as your registration links are specific to you as an individual. If you are participating live yesterday, today, and tomorrow, you will get the proof of participation certificate, and it will be emailed to you in the next 2 weeks after we verify your attendance. So in the email, you're going to receive a link to all of the documents, all the presentations, the recordings. You'll also receive your certificate. So be on the watch for that. If in fact this is at a later date and you are watching the recording now through Farmers Market University, you still will receive a proof of participation by taking the quiz at the end, and that will be directly emailed to you. For those of you that aren't familiar, Farmers Market University is an online platform that we launched a couple of years ago. It hosts multiple trainings for farmers market managers and vendors, including Market Management 101 and 201. We will be adding multiple trainings in the coming months as well, and you can find out more about this at farmersmarketuniversity.org. All the recordings will be available there, as well as the quiz. If you pass the quiz, the certificate will be emailed to you. So if you have vendors, if you're market managers and you have vendors that are coming into your market at a later date and weren't able to participate live, have them take the food safety program through Farmers Market University. That way, they've got all of the up-to-date information, and you can make sure that your market is following all of the current rules and regulations, etc. The Virginia Farmers Market Association, or VAFMA as we call it, is a membership organization, and our mission is to support farmers markets through education, networking, advocacy, and innovation that supports the growth and sustainability of farmers markets statewide. If you find our trainings and our resources available, our advocacy available, I encourage you to consider becoming a member and becoming involved in what our organization is doing, as we stand as a voice for you in the community. Today, as day 2, we are going to hear from, who are we hearing from today? We are hearing from the Office of CBD Hemp out of VDACS. We're also going to be hearing from VDACS all about pet food, and we're going to be hearing from Meat and Poultry at VDACS, and we're going to be hearing from the Virginia Fire Safety regarding what you need to know if you have food trucks at your market or you have anybody that's cooking at your market. So looking forward to that. So again, please drop your questions in the chat. And again, just as a reminder, for certification, you need to participate in the webinar. We actually will get verification that you have participated in the entire webinar. And if you have not, you're just logging in and for a minute or two will not qualify you to receive your certificate for the food safety training. So just keep that in mind. All right, well, with that, I want to go ahead and introduce our first presenter for the day. We are going to hear, we're going to get started and we're going to hear from the Virginia Department of Agriculture first. And I also will mention that yesterday we had the Department of Health telling us all the information that they do. If you guys have, again, food trucks, you're cooking on site, things of that sort, Department of Health has joined us again today, and they will be answering any questions that you have regarding that, or if something has come up that you didn't think about yesterday, be sure and drop it in the chat, and they will be happy to answer those questions. So we've got folks from Department of Agriculture, Department of Health answering questions today, and are happy to have y'all drop those questions in the chat. All right, so without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to turn it over to Nikaya Thomas with the Office of CBD and Hemp. She is the program manager, and we look forward to hearing all about the rules regarding CBD, hemp, whether you can sell plants at the market. I'll just tell you right now, spoiler alert, no, you may not. And we will learn about what's new, etc. So with that, Nikaya, I'm going to turn it over to you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kim. Thank you all for having me and inviting me back to present again. As you all know, hemp is a relatively new commodity that has been regulated in Virginia. And so I'm going to talk with you about VDACS's regulatory framework for hemp. I'll touch a bit on industrial hemp, but the majority of my presentation will be on the Office of Hemp Enforcement regarding hemp products. And as some of you may be aware, there are some pending legislative changes that are coming down the pike. I will also touch on those just a bit, but I'm not sure I'll have much information past what I shared today, but happy to answer any questions. All right, so let's jump into it. In Virginia, or at the Virginia Department of Agriculture, there are two programs that regulate hemp. The first is the Industrial Hemp Program that works to regulate the plant material. So vendors who want to offer for sale hemp plants or the plant material would need to go through the Industrial Hemp Program. The Hemp Enforcement Program regulates finished products. So these are your gummies and snack foods and tinctures and drinks and things of that nature that actually contain hemp. So to start with industrial hemp, as some of you may be aware, the Industrial Hemp Program has 3 registrations: a grower registration, processor, and handler registration. If a person wants to grow industrial hemp, they have to register with the Industrial Hemp Program through an application. There are other things that they have to comply with, such as crop reporting and ensuring that they report their crop acreage to the USDA as well as VDACS. They also have to test their product and so on and so forth. The main objective of this slide is that I wanted to bring forward the notion that industrial hemp can be sold to any individual, which is not true. In Virginia, industrial hemp can only be sold to an individual who has an industrial hemp grower registration, processor registration, or handler registration. In the event that industrial hemp is sold to a person without a registration, that would be considered a transaction or the sale of marijuana. And I know that sometimes the code can be complex to interpret, but this is the language that VDACS has put out to try and make it as simple as possible. So if a vendor wants to offer for sale hemp products, I would highly recommend that they consider consulting with their attorney. because if they are caught selling hemp to a person without a registration, that could be considered the unlawful sale of marijuana. And we want to avoid that, right? Okay, so next up, okay, and so this slide also just kind of goes over, no matter the THC concentration of the hemp plant, it still would be considered the sale of marijuana. So I just wanted to bring that forward as well, that the THC concentration does not matter in this part of the law. So let's move forward to hemp products. In 2018, the U.S. Farm Bill authorized production of hemp, and it removed hemp from the DEA schedule of controlled substances. And so as it turns, there was more of an interest from industry to start making products that had hemp in it. And then as a result of that, VDACS started to regulate hemp extract as a food or a food ingredient, because there were a lot of tinctures and natural products that were coming on the market that were of help to folks who needed additional assistance with inflammation or anxiety. What we found, though, was that the industry was rapidly developing more products that contained synthetic cannabinoids, but also ingredients that could be harmful to unsuspecting adults. And so as a result of that, what we started to see in the marketplace were products like this. You have Stoner Patch gummies, Cannaburst gummies, Chocolate Stonios, and these products are considered harmful because they're quite high in THC potency. And one of the other reasons is that, as you can see, these kind of copy, trademark, and popular snack foods. So what was happening was that children were getting exposed to these products, unknowingly. They think that it's just candy, and they're consuming the entire package of gummies. And so cost of poison control started to increase. And due to that, lawmakers thought it was important to start passing laws to regulate products like this and ensure that highly intoxicating products, especially those marketed towards children, were going to be removed from the market. So along came some new framework for hemp products and the establishment of the Office of Hemp Enforcement. And with that came some new resources for VDACS in particular. VDACS began regulating hemp products in 2023 with some new resources, specifically speaking to civil penalties. So this means that any retailer or individual that wanted to offer for sale a hemp product needed to comply with VDACS's new requirements. And I will go over those requirements very, very shortly. So the Office of Hemp Enforcement, we serve and protect citizens of Virginia by ensuring that hemp products that are made and distributed and offered for sale in Virginia are safe for consumption. And we do that by conducting inspections and reviewing products and their packaging and labeling. Here are a few requirements. I won't go through all of them because I'm sure some of you may be aware of them, but I'll go through and highlight the most important ones, which is this first bullet on the slide. This is regarding THC content. How much THC can be in a product? Well, according to current law, total THC, meaning the encapsulating all isomers of THC. In Virginia, a product cannot exceed 0.3% total THC, or it cannot have more than 2 milligrams of THC per package. If it does have more than 2 milligrams of THC, then it must have 25 milligrams of CBD for every 1 milligram of THC. And I know that seems complex, and you're probably saying, well, Nakia, what does that mean? That basically means that the more THC you put in it, you have to put almost 3 times as much CBD into the product. Another requirement is that edible hemp products and inhalable hemp products that contain THC must be in a child-resistant packaging. That includes products that are offered for sale that have multiple servings. So if a product is offered for sale and it has 2 servings or 3 servings, it must be resealable and child resistant. There are also some labeling and packaging requirements that I'm happy to highlight later on in the presentation. One important requirement is the certificate of analysis done by an independent ISO accredited laboratory. This means that as a consumer or as a vendor, if I'm offering for sale a hemp product, I have to ensure that there is a QR code that informs the consumer how much THC is in this product, how much CBD is in this product, what kind of THC is in this product. So that is also a really important factor when looking at products to see if they meet the requirements set forth in Virginia. One major requirement is that individuals and businesses that want to offer for sale regulated hemp products must register with VDACS. This is considered a hemp product retail facility registration, which means basically that any person that wants to offer for sale a hemp product must register through an application process, as well as pay the registration fee, which is $1,000. One thing to note for my market managers is that if you are looking at a vendor and they want to offer for sale products at your farmer's market, they must obtain a registration specific to the location of the farmer's market, okay? So each registration, here's a copy of like what a real registration would look like, a hard copy. We also issue electronic copies. But you'll see there on the slide, there's red text that highlights the registered location that we have issued a registration for. It's important, market managers, that you take a look at that and ensure that the address matches the address of your farmer's market. Otherwise, the registration has been issued for another location. One of the requirements of having this registration is that you apply for it for each location. So if I'm a business owner and I have 3 locations and a farmer's market, that means that I have to obtain 4 registrations for each location, okay? So here's the compliance and inspection framework. When we go out, we conduct inspections at retail establishments. These include establishments like CBD stores, vape stores, tobacco stores or tobacco huts, tobacco kings, things of that nature. It also includes gas stations. Any retail establishment that wants to offer for sale a hemp product, we will conduct an inspection. Through that process, our inspectors will hand out informational handouts, but they will also begin taking photos and begin documenting all of the products that are offered for sale in the business. We then analyze those products to see, do they meet the requirements set forth in Virginia? Do they meet labeling, packaging, and labeling and packaging requirements? Do they meet THC content requirements? Do they have a certificate of analysis for each product? After we review those products and we assess whether or not there are violations that exist, if there are violations, we issue what's called a notice of alleged violation and penalty assessment. This means for every violation that we've assessed, there is a corresponding civil penalty assessed for that. After we issue a notice of alleged violation, we then give the business owner opportunity to request an informal fact-finding conference, or they can pay the civil penalty outright. If they request an informal fact-finding conference, that typically is an opportunity for the business owner to come to VDACS and meet with us virtually. They go over any corrective actions that they have done. They go over any evidence or documents that they can show that says, hey, I wasn't being negligent, I didn't know, and this is what I'm going to do about the violations. Based off of their good faith efforts, we will then issue a reduced civil penalty, and that is considered the case decision. We then issue a case decision based off of the violations that we found, the evidence that was presented in the informal fact-finding conference, and then we notate any corrective measures. We reassess the civil penalties based off of the appropriate corrective measures, and then we then give that back to the business owner. So let's say I'm a business owner, I say, hey, I still don't agree with these violations. I still don't know if I was in violation of the law. We then give them opportunity to request what's called a formal hearing. They have 15 days from the date of the case decision to request this. If they do request it, we then have to go to the Office of Attorney General and hire a hearing officer. We then inform the business owner, hey, I know that you've requested this. We're going to give you an extension to pay your reduced civil penalty. If you choose not to, that's okay, but understand that after this date, you can no longer be eligible to pay a reduced civil penalty. You now owe the full assessed amount, which can be quite high for a lot of businesses. So VDACS, I went through this entire framework to explain that we try our very best to work with vendors and work with business owners that offer for sale these products so that they can be compliant. So here are some examples of civil penalties. Let's say we go to a business and they say, well, I don't think that you all are allowed to inspect me and I'm refusing your entry. Well, that's a $1,000 civil penalty. Let's say we try to go back and do another inspection and they still refuse us on the second violation of that. That's a $5,000 civil penalty. So the framework of the civil penalties are set so that we can induce voluntary compliance, okay? Some other examples of civil penalties. In this first block, you see offering for sale or selling at retail a hemp product that contains greater than 0.3% THC or more than 2 milligrams, or it doesn't meet the 25-to-1 ratio. That's a $1,000 civil penalty, okay? So these penalties are quite high for business owners, and it was set this way, again, to induce voluntary compliance. We want to ensure that the products that they're selling, that they are aware that there is a violation, but also that it could be potentially harmful for human consumption. Let's say we find a product that appears to be marijuana for sale. Those products or that inspection will then result in what's called a law enforcement referral. If a product is well over the 0.3% THC limit or over the 2 milligram limit, or it doesn't meet the 25-to-1, it may potentially meet the definition of marijuana, which means the business is engaging in the unlawful sale of marijuana. This then becomes a criminal matter, and then we refer this out to law enforcement for them to go forth and investigate. So I wanted to provide a couple of examples of this particular civil penalty. As I stated earlier in the presentation, there was some examples of trademarked products. And one of these civil penalties that we enforce, or one of the requirements we enforce, is that there are no human, animal, vehicles, or fruit on the label. This was done to ensure that products weren't being marketed towards children or persons of youth. And so here are a couple of examples we found in the field that were in violation. You have kind of like the packaging at the very bottom there with the Sour Patch Kids on it. You've got things like a mushroom spaceship, astronaut. So these are all images that we would consider to be in violation of that and would receive a civil penalty for it. Okay, so here's just some more examples of civil penalties. I won't go through this slide because I think that we've hit kind of the highlights, but in the event that we go out and we find products that do contain THC, but they're unlabeled, that's a $500 civil penalty per product, okay? So all of these products that you see here, they don't contain any labeling. So the consumer has no idea how much THC is in it, no idea how much CBD is in it, and they don't know of any other cursory ingredients that may be in it. So this is the reason why we enforce these requirements, because these products look, you know, they don't look harmful. They look innocent. And it's important that as an agency, we are doing our best to protect consumers. Okay, so this slide is just talking about how the term regulated hemp products. You may hear me refer to edible hemp products or inhalable hemp products. regulated hemp products is just a term that encompasses both of those. So I will sometimes use that interchangeably. In 2025, in November of 2025 specifically, VDACS began enforcement of inhalable hemp products. This was slow road to ensure that the program could enforce the requirements and focus those requirements on edible hemp products, which was the major concern of lawmakers at the time. And once we were able to roll that out, we then started enforcement of inhalable hemp products. So here are a few examples of inhalable hemp products that we regulate. Vape in concentrations, hemp flower, shatter, hemp cigarettes, things of that nature. Hemp flower with or without added cannabinoids, things like moon rocks. You'll see things like cannabis sativa. These are all products that we regulate, and sometimes they can be quite high in THC. I included THCA as a slide because I think that there has been misinformation about what THCA is and if it is considered legal. THCA is just THC that has not gone through a heating process. So if you see THCA on a product label, that just means that the THCA is a form of THC. At VDACS, we do include that as a part of the calculation for total THC. And typically, as you can see in my example here, if a product has 40% THCA, we then calculate that into our formula to figure out how much THC is actually in the product. And as you can see, it's 35% THC, which is well above that 0.3% allowable limit. So this would not be considered a hemp product. In this example, it would be considered marijuana. Here are some other examples of products for inhalation. You have crumble or wax. These are products that you would put into like a vaping pen or things of that nature. Again, another example of products that we regulate for inhalation, shatter, wax, all of these products are put into a heating vaping pen or vaping mechanism. They heat it up and then it allows the consumer to inhale it. Vape products. So these products we are finding all over the Commonwealth. Some are disposable, some are reusable, but basically it takes an oil, you place it into the vape and then it heats it up, and then sometimes if you're out and about, you'll smell like a cherry scent or strawberry scent. All of a sudden you're like, man, where did that scent come from? It's likely someone vaping around you. And it may seem harmful, but these products can actually be quite high in THC. And this is just an example of like what an herbal cigarette or hemp cigarette would look like. So inhalable hemp products actually have their own requirements that are very similar to edible hemp products. Some of the major ones are, of course, the registration that I mentioned earlier, making sure the packaging is child resistant. All ingredients that are in the product are also listed on the label, and the amount of THC or any substance that's in the product needs to be on the packaging. It also has to include total THC, the number of milligrams per serving has to be declared on the label, as well as if the product contains THC, it does have to have a disclaimer that says it cannot be sold to a person under the age of 21. So on this slide, I wanted to highlight that in 3.24123, inhalable hemp products also have to comply with that requirement of you cannot sell a product that bears any significant likeness to another manufacturer's product. So that's the example of the Nerds candies, the chocolate Stonios, things of that nature. Here's an example of some products that we found out in the marketplace. These products would be considered in violation of the law for a few reasons. In the bottom right corner, you'll see Sour Stash. This bears a unique likeness to other trademark products. In addition, you'll see it's kind of cut off, but you'll see it has 1,000 milligrams of THC. That's really high. Up above you, you'll see like a Mike Tyson type of gummy, 10 mini pre-rolls, 1,000 milligrams is advertising it has Delta 8 in it, so on and so forth. In the middle there, you'll see it says 42% THCA, indoor grown flower. These are all products that are considered highly intoxicating and could be harmful to the consumer. Okay, so I think I've highlighted this already, so I'm going to skip forward here to this slide where it talks about synthetic derivative. And I know that some of you may have heard this term before, but it basically means a chemical compound produced by man through a chemical transformation to turn a compound into a different compound by adding or subtracting molecules. And you're like, Nakia, what does that mean? I haven't taken science in a while. Well, basically, that just means that we have to be sure that any chemicals that are in the product is not for a different version of what naturally occurs in the plant. So Delta 9 is a product, is an isomer of THC that naturally occurs in the plant, and we naturally will find it in a chemical analysis or in a laboratory test. Things like HHC or Delta 6, those are all products or cannabinoids that are made in a lab. They are man-made and would be considered synthetic. So finally, I've gotten to some legislative updates that I'm going to touch on. The major bill, House Bill 642, which also has a corresponding bill in the Senate Bill 542, proposes some changes regarding hemp products and also regarding the framework of marijuana. So some of the proposed changes includes removing the 25-to-1 allowance for CBD to THC, as well as removing a few of the civil penalties that we assess on the first inspection. So that means that there may be some changes regarding if we conduct a first inspection and let's say the vendor or the business owner has violations regarding packaging and labeling, there is an allowance in the law that says that we would not assess civil penalties on the first inspection. However, if there were violations regarding THC potency, so if we found products that had issues regarding they were high in THC content, we can assess civil penalties. So that's kind of the boiled down version of the proposed changes. What this impact will do is that there are quite a few products that are on the market that do meet that 25-to-1 ratio. And so if this proposed change were to move forward and were to pass, most of the products that are considered compliant would no longer be compliant after July 1. One major change that's in House Bill 642 is the transition of the OHE program, the Office of Hemp Enforcement, and aligning that our program with the Cannabis Control Authority. Right now, the Cannabis Control Authority regulates medicinal marijuana. And so one of the proposals is to have our program move over to that regulatory agency for an alignment of laws and regulations regarding the framework of cannabis in Virginia. Another bill that has been proposed and has been enrolled by the General Assembly is Senate Bill 543. This bill introduces civil penalties for any person who repeatedly violates the Cannabis Control Act by engaging in the unlawful sale of marijuana. So this proposes new civil penalties and more enforcement for facilities that are repeatedly engaging in the lawful sale of marijuana. So there's a little bit more enforcement there for VDACS as well as some other regulatory agencies that can take enforcement action. Where we are now is that the bill has gone through the entire process. As of yesterday, April 28th, the bill is still kind of in limbo. So the original General Assembly passed a version. That version is now, the governor looked it over, provided some amendments. The General Assembly has now sent back their original version to the governor, and who now has 30 days to sign it, veto it, or allow it to become law without signature. So that's the conclusion of my presentation. I hope I didn't go over my time slot, Kim, but if I did, I apologize. Here's my contact information if you're interested and you have any other questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. We have a bunch of questions for you. So I'm going to ask the questions and I'm going to type your answers. So bear with me as I'm a slow typer. But the first question is, are we allowed to gift or give away hemp plants less than 0.3% THC at markets?
That's a good question. So I know that there is in law an allowance for adult sharing for marijuana. And a person in Virginia, a person can have up to 4 plants for their own personal use, and then they share those plants with another person. Can you share industrial hemp with a neighbor, with a friend? I think the law doesn't prohibit it. I think that there needs to be a clear indication that there is no transaction or there is no trade between the plant and something else, like the plant and a donation or things of that nature. So there would need to be clear provisions that say that this was just a gift, rather than, you know, something that I'm giving to a person, and then in return they give me a donation or something of that nature. But the law doesn't prohibit it.
Okay, so then to summarize, a vendor at a farmer's market can provide to a customer at a farmer's market a gifted hemp plant.
Yes, they can. Here are the provisions they need to comply with. They need to have an industrial hemp registration. If they do not have an industrial hemp registration and they have hemp in their possession, that would now potentially meet the definition of marijuana in Virginia. In addition, they also need to have a hemp product retail facility registration.
A hemp product retail facility
registration, yes.
Registration, okay.
So those two registrations they would need to obtain before they can even consider offering those at a farmer's market.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Need to obtain a. All right. Yes, with provisions. They would need an industrial hemp registration, and in addition, they would need to obtain a hemp product retail facility registration.
Right.
All right. Okay. And so then the next question is, what about folks that make salves with hemp infused oils from hemp they grow on their land? Very small producer.
Yeah, topical products are a different category. VDACS currently only requires that topical products have a disclaimer on it. The disclaimer must say that this product is not for human consumption. So as long as the product that is considered like a topical, like a hand cream or oil for like your knees or your back, if it's a topical or a cosmetic product, as long as it has that statement that it is not for human consumption, it is considered compliant.
Okay, as long as product is topical and says not for human consumption.
Yes.
Thank you. Sorry, I just want to make sure I capture what you say. Okay, so I have the question, is there a database of registered people?
Yes, it is on our website. You can find it, and I'm happy to share it with you all, but you can find it on our website at vdacs.virginia.gov. We update the registered folks, the registry monthly.
Mm-hmm.
And I can just quickly share my screen so that you all can see, but this is our website. If you were to go to the main page, you would just click this little hemp leaf here, and scroll down, and you see hemp product retail facility registration. On that third bullet there, you'll see list of VDACS Office of Hemp Enforcement registrants. If you click there, you'll find all of the folks that have a current and active registration with us.
Click on, all right, click on list of VDACS. Okay, list of VDACS, Office of Hemp. Okay, all right, thank you.
No problem.
All right, continuing on. All right, I had a question here. Okay, so you had talked about $1,000 Is that $1,000 for each location?
Yes.
Yes, for each location. All right, bear with me.
No problem.
I feel like I'm back in high school typing. Stenographer, I'm not. All right. The next question is, does the permit per location only for consumable hemp product? Is that permit per location only for consumable hemp products, not topical items?
That's correct. So if the permit or the registration is specifically for products for human consumption. So that's inhalable hemp products as well as edible hemp products.
Human consumption, inhalable and edible products. Okay. Yes, registration specifically for human consumption, inhalable and edible products only.
That's right.
Okay. And then we have, what is the most important compliance points market managers should be aware of when allowing vendors to sell hemp products at market?
Most important compliance points, are they registered? Does their packaging reflect all of the pertinent information that the consumer needs to know?
Pertinent
Those are
info.
the top two things to be concerned about. Are they registered, and does the packaging provide the consumer everything they need to know to consume the product?
Is the information that needs to go on the package on your website?
Yes.
Consume product. Label info is on VDACS website.
Yes,
Okay.
there's a guidance document in our resources tab that you can find all of that information.
Guidance document. Okay. All right. Moving on down the list. Let's see. Hemp seeds in baked goods, granola or cookies, etc.
Perfectly safe. It can be added as an ingredient, and it does not require registration for that.
But it does need to go through Rochelle.
It does. It does need to go through the food safety program if a person is going to be offering it at a farmer's market. But as far as like a hemp registration, it's not required for that.
Yes, can be added as an ingredient without hemp registration, but still needs to go through food safety compliance.
Yeah, the food safety program.
Your food safety program. Okay, perfect. Okay, so to clarify, skincare products do not require any oversight, registration, permit, etc.
Yeah, the only oversight is that disclaimer on the label, but no, they don't. They aren't required to have a
And that's not for human consumption.
Right, that's right.
Not for human consumption. Disclaimer. Okay. Disclaimer on label. Okay. All right. Is a cannabis tincture acceptable that uses sugar leaves and not buds? You selling it at a farmer's market? You're selling a tincture at a farmer's market? Come on. Tinctures. Oh.
If it's ingestible, if it's for human consumption, the person would still need to register.
Okay.
So whether it was made with sugar leaves or buds or just the stalk, if it's a hemp product that's for consumption, you do need to be registered.
And they also have to go through food safety program. Yeah. And Virginia ABC. Okay. All right. Just to clarify, topicals still need to follow guidelines of THC content, but do not require retail registration.
Topicals they do not have requirements in Virginia law regarding THC content. Their only requirement is that they have the disclaimer that it's not for human consumption. And I can tell you where that is quickly. So you can find the requirements for topical hemp products in 3.2-4124.
I'm sorry, 3.2-4124. 4124? Is there a 4124? All right. Topicals do not have requirements regarding the content, just need disclaimer not for human consumption. 3.2-4124. Perfect. Okay. If growing hemp plants and they do exceed the THC limit, is it specifically stated on how you are supposed to dispose of that plant matter, flower?
Yeah, VDACS does have disposable requirements. You would need to contact the industrial hemp program for that, but there are methods for disposing of plant material that are considered acceptable, and then there are some that are considered not. I don't have that information off the top of my head, but you can contact the industrial hemp program for more information.
Backyard burn is not the answer. You neighbors will not be grateful. All right, so VDACS has a disposable VDACS has disposable requirements. Contact industrial hemp program at VDACS for info. Okay. Okay. A follow-up to the $1,000 location fee. Is this for humans and pets? Are they separate at all?
This is for humans, human consumption. We don't regulate pet food or pet treats or anything of that nature.
Okay.
That I think that's a different program that maybe presenting later. Yeah.
Yep. And she's next.
Yeah.
All right. So for human consumption only. Okay. So a follow-up to, I don't know what Tyler's first question was. Sorry. To purchase from a grower, do you have to be registered?
Yes.
With VDACS, Office of Hemp. Office of Hemp. I've just shortened the name of your office. Sorry.
That's okay.
Okay. And so you could sell skincare products with theoretically any amount of THC as long as it has a disclaimer.
That's right.
Wow.
That's the way the law is written in Virginia.
Wow. But it's still sitting on the governor's desk, right? With the laws written in Virginia.
I'm not sure what if it's attractive to put a bunch of THC on your face, but if you want to do it.
Oh my God. Okay. If passed by legislative session. And so to that point, this is all the information that we're recently talking about. This is the new information from the General Assembly this year, and it is not, in fact, law yet.
No, everything I've told you is everything that's in the law currently.
Okay.
And what we talked about earlier about the law changing is regarding the 25-to-1 ratio. That's one of the major changes that's being proposed. But everything I've shared with you all, the answers is how the law is written currently.
Okay. Perfect. All right. If you do have any questions that come up, let us know, and we will get them over to. Are you hanging on? Or
I do see one additional one in
okay.
the host and panelist chat.
Okay.
If a topical or cosmetic product contains hemp seed oil, is the disclaimer required? If it's a topical or cosmetic, it has to have that disclaimer on it.
Okay.
Or what if it has hemp seed, any hemp ingredient has to have that disclaimer on it.
Okay. And then we have another one. You see the one from Rich. As a farmer in Virginia, I want to grow industrial fiber, hemp for construction products, biodegradable products, etc. Does Virginia have a program for that kind of a segment of the industry and not the CBC extract industry sector?
Yes, you still need to register with the industrial hemp program. They regulate both plant material for CBD and THC, as well as plant material for fiber. So you still need to register.
Okay. All right. Any other questions? And please drop them in the chat. I mean, in the, well, this is why we're having these issues. Please drop them in the Q&A.
I think that's everything.
Okay. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate it. Oh, wait. Nope. We have another question. Wouldn't it be prudent to assume that the base hemp is 0.3% or less THC, then the resulting topical product should also be 0.3% or less?
I would say with hemp, you can't assume anything. In federal law as well as in Virginia, hemp is considered cannabis sativa that contains no more than 0.3% total THC or delta 9 THC on the federal
Mm-hmm.
level. If a person is producing a topical or a cosmetic using hemp plant material, typically it is pretty low in THC content. If they're producing a product that has a high amount of THC in it, I haven't seen that on the marketplace for, I think, for a couple of reasons. The composition to make a hemp plant with a lot of THC in it and then put that into a topical, I think that would potentially make some of the ingredients that you traditionally see in topicals and cosmetics counteractive. So I hope that answers your question a bit. But most topicals have a low amount of THC in it because there are ingredients that go into topicals and cosmetics that would be counteractive if there's a high amount of THC. I hope that makes sense.
Okay. We have a couple of other questions that have been dropped in the chat.
Okay.
Hold on, let's see. Where did it go? Okay. Okay, so Rich wants to know, is there a specific, he's planning on registering organic to be an organic material grower. Let's see. Is there specific regulations on him using hemp industrial hemp to grind it back into my soil to increase organic material?
Not that I'm aware of, but there are requirements for growing hemp fiber, and there are requirements for how you report that to USDA as well as VDACS. So, Rich, no matter what you're growing it for, if it's organic material or if it's for your cows or whoever, if you're growing hemp in Virginia, you have to register.
Okay, thank you. All right. So thank you so much. I really appreciate it. One last chance while we have her beautiful face right here with us. Any last questions? No? A lot changing. So awesome.
Thanks, everybody. Have a good one.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. I appreciate you being here again. Thank you so much. All right. So we are switching from CBD hemp to pet food, and pet food CBD hemp does for pets does fall under pet food. So for those of you that had questions regarding, I think it was Katie, that have questions regarding pet food, drop them back in the chat so we can get those asked of our new presenter. Let me see. Hold on a minute. I apologize. My office assistant today is being very needy and clingy. For those of you that are calling from home, I hope you can appreciate the struggle we have with animals constantly disrupting our day. So that was great. A lot going on with CBD and hemp here in the state of Virginia. And so I know it's complex. And as you start to dive down into the system and you have additional questions, feel free to reach out to Nakia at VDACS. She is very helpful, her entire department. It's a ever evolving door. So regarding the new information. So make sure that you have the most up-to-date information possible. Now we are going to switch over to pet food, which is very exciting. And we have Jennifer Clifford. She's the Compliance Safety Officer for the Office of the Plant Industrial Services at VDACS, the Virginia Department of Agriculture Consumer Services. And she's going to answer all of our pet questions, provide us with a presentation. And so make sure that you ask her all the questions about CBD and pet food and raw milk and pet food. The most asked questions I get regarding pet food and selling pet food bulk, and she'll be happy to answer those. Again, drop all your questions into the Q&A, and we will get those answered at the end of her presentation, if not during the presentation. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Jennifer. Thank you for being with us today.
Thank you for having me. Good morning, everyone. My name is Jennifer Clifford. I am the Licensing and Compliance Officer for this department. I typically handle a majority of the questions that are intake by our department for treats as far as registration and licensure. So I'll start here with kind of like a rundown of what what we'll discuss today. So basically going over some VDACS requirements. What is tonnage, manufacturing of treats, and labeling requirements, and follow up with frequently asked questions that most of my questions that come in the department hopefully will be answered in the last section. And again, if you have any additional questions, please feel free to drop them in the chat.
All right, thank
I
you.
have an additional assistant today, Miss Caroline, who's going to also try and answer them for me, and I'll follow up with discussion at the end.
Perfect, thank you.
So Virginia Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services requirements are commercial feed licensures. So what is required of a business is a licensure and or product registration. So depending upon what you sell, those are the two basic things that are required through our department. Licensing is considered annual, and our feed year runs from January 1st through December 31st. So it doesn't matter which time of the year, that is the license timeframe. So that is a big confusion. I'll have people register in March and think that they have to renew in March, and it is not that case. So the cost of a licensure is $50 per year, and it is renewed annually. And we send out notices typically November, December for licensures. So you will receive it in the mail in November, and most likely it is also followed up by tonnage, which I'll go over in the next slide. And you will have to file those every year. As far as product registrations, registration is also annual and is separate from licensure. So product registration is also the same. It's January 1st to December 31st. Depending upon what you sell, but the most common thing that farmers markets sell are the small package treats. And those are prepackaged, labeled products that are guaranteed by the licensed company. That is $50 per product. Receipts of payments does not equal registration. So once you send in your license and registration, it does not mean that you are good to sell. We review licensures and product registrations before registration. So typically we say to allow a couple of weeks for registration turnaround time. So plan accordingly. Yeah, that's the next slide. So what is tonnage? So this is one of the questions that I get asked annually and on a constant basis. It is required of all businesses with an active license to return this form annually to report your tonnage. Tonnage does not mean that you sell by the ton necessarily. It means that you sell product that is loose or in packaging greater than 10 pounds. So anything under 10 pounds is registered, that $50 registration fee per product. Anything over 10 pounds or sold loose or in bulk is considered tonnage, and you file tonnage on top of the license and registration fee. So I like to give an example for the small businesses that typically sell product that is small package product. If you're labeling and guaranteeing that product with your business's name, you have to license and register it. But if you are creating package cookies that are not labeled and they're out on a display bar, so the cookies are individually sitting in some sort of ice cream bar situation where the consumers get to pick and choose what cookies they want to go into their bag, that is considered loose bulk tonnage. So that is what you report on this form. Again, if you sell it prepackaged, pre-labeled, and packages under 10 pounds, then all you do is print your name, sign, date, and return it to our office. You do not file tonnage because you are considered an exempt small package company. I like to try and go over this because this is probably one of my most common questions. So as far as manufacturing goes, pet treats can be manufactured in home kitchens. An inspection prior to manufacturing is not required, but we are allowed by the section 3.2 4809 to conduct an inspection. And when you are manufacturing treats, please be sure to follow the USDA's U.S. Food and Drug Administration's current good manufacturing practices, which can be found in the 21 CFR Part 507 for CGMPs for animal food. So as far as labeling, like I said, we review all small package feed labels prior to registration. So that's all the product that is under 10 pounds that is distributed in prepackaged containers. And those labels must be submitted with your license and registration forms for us to review, and then we register. So in the next couple slides, we'll be breaking down what is required on a standard label. So here is an example of a properly formatted label, and we'll break down each one of those categories that are listed up here. So the first thing is a brand name. The product needs a brand name. There is multiple ways that companies can name their products. There is an association called AAFCO, which is the acronym AAFCO for the American Association of Feed Control Officials, that has naming guidelines, and you can follow those with your business in naming the products. Intended species needs to be listed on the product. So whether or not it's a cat, dog, horse, gecko, parakeet, budgie, whatever it is, it needs to have a species intent on it so that the product is properly formatted and the ingredients are acceptable for the intended species. So just putting a picture of a cat on your product does not necessarily, it's not accepted. So we need to actually have cat treat, dog supplement, dog food, something of that nature has to have the intended species on there somewhere on the packaging. Because we do have companies that have certain species in their logos that it does not qualify as the intended species for that product. So as far as a quantity statement, it's expressed in weight for a solid volume product or solid products and volume for liquid products in an avoirdupois US and metric equivalent. So all that word jumble means it needs to have two different measurements listed on the front, and the net weight, we have an example down below, has to have its own category header, net weight, and then list those two amounts, US and metric equivalent. So for fluids and for weight, you need to have those listed separately. So as far as the ingredient statement, the bulk of the product, why you're selling the product, what's in it. So it typically is listed as an approved ingredient by an AAFCO, so that acronym that I listed earlier. Chapter 6 of the official publication of AAFCO, it is listed on AAFCO's website as a free resource for you to see how the label should display the name of the ingredients. It is listed by descending order of weight. So the most amount of the product should be listed as the first ingredient and all the way down to the least amount of ingredient in the product. So in this example, we have peanut butter. So this product would have peanut butter being the heaviest and the most amount of ingredient in the product. If there are no designated names adopted by AAFCO, there is what's called a common food index listed on AAFCO's website that you can also use for accepted ingredients that are common products, as well as FDA lists what is considered common product names. The following that I have listed are sugar, cheese, yogurt. Those are accepted in ingredient statements without further breakdown. Typical things that I see are addition of quality or grade added into the ingredient statement. Those things are not allowed in the ingredient statement and should be listed as the common name or the AAFCO defined ingredient. So here's the question that everyone asked earlier, or someone asked earlier. CBD, hemp products, and THC are not allowed in animal feed. There is one small tiny exception that is specifically and as listed by AAFCO, hemp seed meal, and that is it for the intended species being laying hens. That is the only exception to that ingredient for that category of product. Otherwise, it is considered an adulterant in pet feed. And I just wanted to make that clear that it is pet feed. There are additional animal remedies that is not a part of this presentation that are considered exemptions, and that is a separate legislation. So as far as label requirements for guaranteed analysis, This must include the correct header as guaranteed analysis, followed by the following components in the order in which they're listed. So crude protein, crude fat, crude fiber, and moisture listed as minimums and maximums that are noted here. So if you claim that your treat is low fat or reduced fat or low fat or reduced fat, then you need to also include the maximum crude fat, fiber, or fat value. And any additional guarantees, so say that your product, you're claiming that it has vitamin E or it has a high amount of glucosamine in it, those must be guaranteed in the guaranteed analysis following those required for pet feed. So as far as the nutritional adequacy statement, this is stating that it's a snack or a treat. If it has it in the name or on the front half of the label, it is not required in the state of Virginia. However, it's advisable to put some sort of identifier on the product to have that this is a snack or a treat. This is intended for supplemental use only, something of that nature. As far as the manufacturing guarantor, that is required on the labeling. It should list the company's name, followed by, at a minimum, the city, state, and zip of the guarantor of the product. As far as email addresses go, that's fine to put them on there, but it should not be used in place of the actual manufacturer guarantor name, like state and city and zip. And it should also be what's listed on your license. We do have situations where there's multiple different companies that manufacture and they put those on the products, but it's not required for all of them to have that listed on the licensure. Just the guarantor needs to have the license of that product. For calorie content, the label of the cat or dog food should include a calorie content. It is typically listed under the calorie content header, but not as a part of the guaranteed analysis. So it should be a separate section from the guaranteed analysis. And it's written and recorded as metabolizable energy on an as-fed basis. So you'll see ME behind calorie content, followed by the two values as listed below. So kilocalories per kilogram is required, and as kilocalories per familiar household unit. So if it's a treat, you would say kilocalories per treat, or if it's a product that is in shapes that you break off, it would be per piece. So that should be recorded on the product's label. But both of those values are required. So as far as claims, everyone likes to put claims on their products while they're selling it. So they must be truthful, and if requested, they must be substantiated, and we'll go over what that means. So here's some common examples that we'll see typically on our labels. Whitens, freshens breath. So the only approved dental claim has to have a mechanism for removal. So chewing, it has to be listed as the mechanical action for providing the fresh breath. As far as low-calorie dog treats, they have to indicate using their feeding instructions how it is low calorie, which is different from low fat. So low calorie being they have to show a reduced calorie intake with those feeding directions. As far as curing cancer, unless you can substantiate it, it is not allowed. So that would not be allowed on a pet treat. So what I had listed earlier, additional guarantees that should be in the guaranteed analysis would be a claim for this product's high in vitamin E or high in vitamin A. So those must be listed, and that is what is requested for substantiation for claiming additional nutrients on the product. So what is substantiation? Why do we ask for it? So it depends on the type claims that are being made. Some of them can include guarantees in the GA, like we said, specification sheets for ingredients from the manufacturer of the ingredient. So if it's an ingredient that either you've listed as a undefined ingredient, we would need or ask for specific or specification sheets for that ingredient, and possibly multiple peer-reviewed journal articles for the intended species at the inclusion rate in the ingredient statement as listed. So that is what substantiation is when we ask for it. So, some frequently asked questions. Are dehydrated or freeze-dried chicken feet allowed without a commercial kitchen? If it's an animal food, yes, it is. Does pet food have a certain temperature? What are the guidelines? Well, it typically depends on the product. So if you're listing this product with a high moisture content, there should be some sort of storage instructions, how to handle the product. For instance, if it's a temperature controlled product, it must be listed as place in the refrigerator to prevent adulteration. That's the biggest consumer compliance and consumer safety that we're looking for, is making sure that you're putting those storage instructions for high moisture content or frozen products or any products that require a specific storage temperature to avoid spoilage. So how do you go about starting an on-site food company? You'll just contact our Ag Commodities program. We can provide you with the information and documents needed to license or register. You're welcome to visit our website. And if you type in your general search bar, VDACS, VDACS, pet food registration, it should bring you straight to the form. It should be one of the first 2 links that you'll drop down to. As far as insurance goes for food companies at farmers markets, your guess is as good as mine. So you can reach out to your local insurance agent and find out what they offer as far as pet food companies. Can you sell pet food snacks at farmers markets and wholesale places without a commercial kitchen? Yes. So you can sell animal food without a commercial kitchen, but you're still licensed. You're required to license and register the products if applicable. So another question I get is ground poultry as pet food. Can you process it? Can you sell it as pet food? Yes, you can sell ground meat as a supplemental pet food, but it must be kept under conditions to prevent spoilage and contamination, and it must be licensed and registered with the state. So another question that I was going to add to this, I get questions all the time about cottage food laws. They do not apply to pet feed, so it is not applicable. You must license and register with the Virginia Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services. So my next slide is some helpful resources. I also deal with a lot of companies that are on the borders of states surrounding us. And if you're from West Virginia trying to sell in Virginia, just because you have a West Virginia license does not mean that you can sell in the state of Virginia. So you would need and would be required to license your products in Virginia if you are distributing in Virginia. That is something that I do get quite often. Lots of questions where people are from another state and they're selling just over the border because it's 2 seconds away from their house. So just make sure that you're contacting each individual state that you intend to distribute in to make sure that you are compliant with their legislation. And as far as our resources, we have what's called a pet treat guidance booklet that is found on our webpage. Again, that's also another thing that you can type in your regular search bar, the pet treat guidance booklet, VDACS, and it should take you to the first or second link that should be there. AFCO is the acronym that I explained earlier. They have labeling requirements that are helpful for startup companies, as well as FDA has their information and guidance documents on the regulation of pet food. And that is all I have.
Yay. We've had several questions in the chat, and Carolyn and Wayne have been answering those questions. The last question we have is, can a market vendor that has a shop sell smoked pig's ears? Do you mean sell the smoked pig's ears at the farmer's market?
Yeah, that I would have to get a little bit more information. Yeah, so I see Caroline has jumped in on that one. Depending upon how it is labeled, depends on whether or not it needs to be licensed and registered. On AFCO's website, there is a choose exemption that individuals can look up. Virginia recognizes and acknowledges and follows AFCO's guidance on chews. So a chew is a product that is specific to the ingredients listed on AFCO's webpage that are considered chews and are labeled as chews meaning that they do not have a guaranteed analysis. They do
Right.
not provide nutritional information. It is just an ingredient with net weight, product name, manufacturing information, and that is it. So an example of that would be a femur bone from a cow for a chew for a dog. If the product says Buddy's femur bones, great for chewing, occupies your dog, has a net weight on the front, an ingredient statement, cow femur, or just femur, followed by manufacturing information, that is considered a chew. If the company tries to put nutritional information stating that it provides a large amount of collagen or it's nutritious and delicious, those are claims that require it to properly label the product by putting a guaranteed analysis. Unless they want to remove the claims and sell it as a chew, we would allow them to remove the claims and sell it as a chew without that additional nutritional claims on the product.
Okay. And that analysis would be from the FDA?
The guaranteed analysis, as in the crude protein, fat, fiber, they would have to list that on the label if they're making those claims. So if it says that it's high in collagen, that it's nutritious and delicious, that's what it would have to have the guaranteed analysis.
But if they're making claims that it cures cancer or it promotes any type of medical health claims,
those are drug-like claims and would be denied. So that product would have to remove those claims.
Okay. Perfect. Any last questions? I think you talked about raw milk during your presentation in pet food, correct?
I did not address it, but that is something that we can, if an individual has questions about raw milk, you can contact our department and we will give you some more guidance. That's a whole nother presentation in and of itself.
It is, and it comes up a lot because that's the only way that you can have raw milk in any form at a farmer's market. And so it always comes up, but I appreciate that. So if any of you are considering, raw milk as a pet treat, please contact the Jill and Carolyn in their department. We've got your contact info. Any last questions for them while we have them? We also have their presentation, so we will load that up onto the site and have all of the answers to their questions loaded also. If you have any questions that arise that we didn't answer today, please feel free to forward those to their department or to myself, and we will get that information for you. And Jill, Jennifer, excuse me, I appreciate it so much you being here today. And Carolyn for jumping on, and Wayne for answering the questions. Thank you so much. As always, it's greatly appreciated. The pig's ears in the basket, always if you have a bunch of pig's ears in the basket, can you call and choose instead of having to go through the registration process? We get that every year. So I appreciate you addressing that question. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. We are going to shift gears now, and we're going to talk about fire safety, and we're going to talk about the fire marshal requirements at farmers markets as it relates to mobile food trucks, cooking at markets, things of that sort. So we're going to shift a little bit. I know if you're looking at the agenda, it says dairy. We actually will do dairy tomorrow morning. And so we've had just a little flip in the schedule. So let's talk about fire safety. Troy, do I have you with us?
Yes, I am here.
Oh, yeah. I can. Thank you. So I would like to welcome Assistant Chief of the State Fire Marshal and Special Operations, Troy Bauer. Thank you for being with us again, sir. I appreciate it. And he's going to talk about some of the regs. This is in no way all inclusive. So there are still different requirements regarding fire extinguishers and fire retardant tents and things of that sort. But let's talk about the big issues regarding mobile markets, mobile food trucks, cooking at markets, etc. Thank you, sir.
All right. Well, first, thank you for having me once again. Always good to speak to the group. And my apologies, I've been jumping around today. The Secretary of Public Safety is here in the building. So a lot of movement, a lot going on here today and at headquarters here in Glen Allen, Virginia. So, um, once again, I'm Troy Bauer with the Virginia State Fire Marshal's Office. We are in charge of enforcing all the, we are the fire marshal for all of the cities and counties that do not have a fire marshal. That is about 63 of the 93 in the Commonwealth. So we kind of go all over. We have fire marshals throughout the state all over. We're broken up into 7 different divisions, 3 different regions, Eastern, Western, and Central. Food trucks is one of the many things, and mobile food preparation vehicles, as they're called in the code, are one of the many things we deal with. It's very confusing. I'm going to do my best to explain it to you, but I'm sure we're going to have some questions at the end. And we're also going to always have some questions. I tell people this code was written, it's rarely new, it's pretty new in our code cycle. It's the same code for a food truck that somebody built in their backyard. That's a 4x8 trailer. And we're applying the same codes that are now, as you guys are well aware of, there are, $500,000 mobile food trucks out there that are basically rolling kitchens. And it's not always clear what is a food truck or mobile food preparation vehicle and what isn't. For the farmers market world, you guys will have some, I'm sure, and you also have some cooking under tents. These are two different things from the fire code. They're both, can be dangerous, and our goal is to not prevent anyone from doing either, but we just want to do it safely. So we'll go ahead and we'll get started with this presentation. This is the same presentation I did for the food summit. So some of you might have seen that. And we'll just get going. So mobile food preparation vehicles, here we have one. That's a fire truck that someone decided to turn into a food truck. I did not see this one. I did not take a lot of these pictures. These were sent in and sent to us from other places. Some of them are from our own fire marshals. But yeah, you'll see any and all kinds of things out there as food trucks. So what exactly is a mobile food preparation vehicle, or as we tend to call it, a food truck? So the Virginia Statewide Fire Prevention Code, which is our book here that we live and die with, the fire code, it states that it is a vehicle, covered trailer, cart, or enclosed trailers or other movable devices capable of being able to be occupied by persons during cooking operations, and that contain cooking equipment that utilize open flames or are capable of producing smoke or grease-laden vapors for the purpose of preparing and serving food to the public. Vehicles used for private recreation should not be considered mobile food preparation vehicles. So in that definition, a mobile food preparation vehicle, a food truck, has to meet all 3 of these criteria. They have to be capable of being occupied, and they must contain equipment that either utilizes open flame or produces grease-laden vapor and serves food to the public. So you want to operate a food truck. Well, it's a permissible operation with inherent risk of fire and explosions. And Section 319 in the Fire Code is the Virginia amendment that was introduced to meet a recognized safety need in the Commonwealth. Again, these are the food trucks can be operated safely, but they need to be regulated. A lot of them are using gas and tight quarters and bumping up and down the road hundreds of miles. And every time you set that plate thing up and break it down and set it back up again, it's going to be slightly different. So there needs to be some sort of regulations. So who is the AHJ? The authority having jurisdiction. This is where it can be confusing. So the authority having jurisdiction if you own a mobile food preparation vehicle and you live in, say, Richmond or Chesterfield or Hanover or Loudon or Virginia Beach or Roanoke, and these are the type of places that have their own fire marshal's office, and that's where your food truck is out of, they are the authority having jurisdiction. They're the ones that need to permit the food truck. If you are in a county where we are the HJ, we become the one that needs to permit your food truck annually. And if you're out of state, we are the ones that need to permit your food truck annually. That being said, if you are in Richmond, for example, and you set up on state property or in a county where we are the HJ and we are in the area for an event, we might do an inspection of your food truck, but that's not a permit. Safety inspections vary from permits. Safety inspections are free of charge. Permits are a $200 annual fee. This basically goes through what I just told you. The mobile food preparation vehicles registered in a locality or town, town, city, or county, who both have a fire official elected to enforce the provisions code, then they are the HJ. Some of the larger counties, I think Chesterfield is one of them, they have actually said they will not be permitting them. So you might own a mobile food preparation vehicle in the county of Chesterfield. You will call their fire marshal and they will say, call the state fire marshal, we're not going to permit. So again, my apologies. This is not easy to decipher. At the end of this, you will get all my contact information, so you can contact me with any questions you may or may not have in regards to this. So the Fire Prevention Code does not offer an option to leave the food trucks uninspected. We have to inspect them. So the only options available are local enforcement or enforcement by the state fire marshal's office or someone we designate to do it. So we may still do a inspection even if it's been permitted by an HJ. There will be no charge for this inspection. Like I started the class with, we do inspect them because every time you move them, something changes in them. The cooking equipment can move, the gas lines can be damaged, fire extinguisher can go off, the systems activate sometimes while they're bumping up and down the roads. So we will, if we're at an event and there's food trucks and it's permitted by someone else, we'll come in and we'll lay eyes on it, but we'll do an inspection report, but there will not be a permit fee. What are we looking for in your mobile food preparation vehicles? So one, wheel chocks. Wheel chocks shall be used to prevent mobile food preparation vehicles from moving. Separation, this is important. Every food truck needs to be separated by 10 feet. I know in a farmer's market setting, that can be a problem, right? Space is a premium, and you also don't want, to have a line of 10 food trucks with 10 feet in between each one. And, it's 300 feet to get from one end of the food trucks to another. For a farmer's market setting, might be better having them on the perimeter, spaced around everything else, give you a little better layout. But separation is important. And that is because if something does happen, if it does catch fire, it won't set off the next food truck in line. Again, permitting, they all need to be permitted. Seating, this is one that I actually have only been asked once. I had a call from a guy that wanted to build his own food truck, and I have to say it sounded pretty cool because I love old things, and he was going to do a 50 style diner, and he wanted to have seating for about 3 or 4 in the food truck and give it that diner vibe. And unfortunately, you cannot have the public seated inside your food truck, but it did sound neat. If you have grease-laden vapors, you have to have an exhaust hood that is in compliance with NFPA 96. That also has to have fire protection It has to have a system in there. So if you're cooking if you're deep frying or you're cooking with grease-laden vapors and you have something flame up, the extinguishing system will put it out. You also have a portable fire extinguisher. Again, if you're cooking with grease-laden vapors, that'll be a K-style fire extinguisher, and that needs to be inspected. Also, your gas cooking appliance will be secured and in place and connected to fuel supply piping with an appliance connector compliant with ANSI Z2 1.69. The connector installation shall be configured in accordance with the manufacturer's installation instructions. Movement of appliance shall be limited by restraining devices installed in accordance with the connector and appliance manufacturer's instructions. So what's that saying is you can't just have a rubber hose running from your propane on the outside through your metal wall with no grommet and just secured to your cooking equipment. We don't want we want everything to be installed properly. Explosions are real. There's I think there might be some even in here. There's pictures online of food trucks exploding from gas leaks because if the gas is leaking inside and it's a confined space, things can get real dangerous real quick. You have to have leak detection. You have to check with water and soap to the connections to make sure you don't have any leaks. You have to have pressure testing with NFPA 58. These are all, things that are part of the permitting process and inspection process. This is what we're looking for. And the common saying we say in the fire marshal's world is the fire code was written in blood. It's very reactionary. Most everything in there is due to something happening. The leak detection. This is again back to the explosions. We've had a number of food truck fires and explosions over the years. So we're putting in the code that we need to try to prevent that. I know for those that grew up in the Richmond area like I did, I've been in the game a long time. I'm an old man now, and I was in school at VCU in the 90s and worked down at MCB in the early 2000s and doing fire safety. And I saw 3 or 4 food truck burn to the ground because of the gas. They would have poor connections, and they would cook all the food at home and throw it in the warmer and ride down the road with it with the gas on, keeping everything hot. So when they got there, it was ready to serve. And we saw more than 2 fires for sure down there. And that was just on one block of one street. So it does happen. Your cooking oil storage containers shall have a minimum aggregate area volume not to exceed 120 gallons. Shall be stored in such a way as to not be toppled or damaged. Again, the oil, that's fuel source. We want to make sure that stuff doesn't get loose while you're transporting, and also don't make sure it doesn't tip over while you're occupying and cooking. The storage tanks shall comply with sections 319 through 385. Metallic cooking oil storage tanks shall be listed with UL 142 or UL 80. Non-metallic tanks shall be installed in accordance with tank manufacturer's instructions. Tanks shall be listed for use with cooking oil. You can't just go buy, a brand new, gas container and put your cooking oil in. It's got to be made for cooking oil. Also shall not exceed 200 gallons. I don't see this a lot. That's a lot of oil. Usually we don't see that much oil on the food trucks. Metallic and non-metallic cooking oil storage system components shall include piping, connections, fittings, valves, tubings used for the transfer of cooking oil. Again, it must be designed for that use. Tanks must be vented. Pretty boring stuff, but emergency relief vents shall be located above the maximum normal liquid line. This is all basic stuff. Your LP, a lot of the food trucks cook with LP. They must comply with an FAA 58, and there's a volume for that and protection for the container. A lot of times we see LP tanks mounted haphazardly on the back of a food truck with no protection, which is just asking for a disaster when someone gets rear-ended. Got to make sure you are your containers are protected properly. Some food trucks use compressed natural gas, maximum volume for that, protection of the container again, construction of container. It's all going to be used for what it's for. Same with the valves, and they need to be protected. The piping needs to be protected, and you would need a methane alarm. So maintenance, exhaust system, your exhaust system and fire protection system, they have to be maintained with Chapter 6 and Chapter 9. Your fire protection systems, that means they need to be, your hood systems will need to be inspected every 6 months and cleaned at least once a year. In the code, it states the HJ can ask for more cleaning, mandate more cleaning if you're cooking a lot. And that's the same standard that is used for a brick and mortar restaurant. Certain places that deep fry a lot, their hoods get way more grease on them, and they need to be cleaned at a greater rate than once a year. That's for you to determine as you're out there in the world operating. You should be taking the vents out and cleaning them on a regular basis. But if you're starting to see the grease build up on the links behind the vents and up the exhaust, then it's going to need to be cleaned at a more frequent rate than once a year. And this is our website, vafire.com. We are in the middle. Well, we're actually getting towards the end of a total redesign of our website, and we're hoping to get, or we're going to have a way to sign up for the permitting and pay the permitting online. Right now, there's a contract that needs to be printed out and filled out for us to do the permitting, and hopefully soon, within I think it's early mid-May, I think we're going to be able to go live, and you'll be able to do all of that online. We also, on our website, we have a checklist that contains most of Chapter 319. So our website is a great resource. You can print out the checklist, and you can know exactly what we're going to be looking for. No more, no less. And that way, when you do decide to have the permit inspection done, you can say, you can go down the checklist, check it off, and you can call us when you're ready. So I haven't updated this. It's supposed to go live by the end of 2025. We have not gotten there. Everything's going a little slower, but we're very, very close. And this is my contact info. So if you have questions or comments, shoot me an email. That's probably the best way. Phone calls, I'm coming and going a lot. If you catch me outside of the office, it's kind of hard if I need to reference something. But if you hit me up on email, I can always read it and then mark it unread and get back to you and figure it out. But that's our website, and that is my email. So feel free to hit me up. This was mostly food trucks, but I know this is the farmers market group here. So basically, it's kind of the same. If you're going to cook under a tent, the tent needs to be 701 rated, and you need to have your separation. If you're going to have generators, which I don't think we talked about that, generators need to be spaced 10 feet back as well, and you need to have separation of your tents if you're cooking. Again, that's so we don't have a fire, and then it's spread to the next tent and so on and so forth. If you're warming something under your tent, I don't think that's necessary. It's more for open flames and grease-laden vapors, and then of course that's where VDH comes in, right? Y'all have a whole different set of rules for cooking under tents and all that jazz that comes with that. We've had some food truck issues over the years where they don't have the setup for they have a deep fryer and a griddle in their truck, and they don't have a suppression system at all. And our fix is to tell them to get a rated tent and then just cook 10 feet away from their truck and pass the food to the truck and then sell it, which is a cheaper, easier way of doing it a lot of times. Of course, people necessarily don't want to hear that. We don't do, speaking of trucks, so I think I have, let me see if I can find, I have another slideshow that has a lot of good pictures on it. Let me see if I can find it. Oh, wrong button. Are y'all still seeing all this?
Yes.
Y'all seeing this? I can't hear anybody.
Yes.
Yeah?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, so we'll go through some violations here. What are we looking for here? This is the audience participation part. Can anyone tell me what the issue is with this mobile food preparation vehicle?
Let's see. We've got a bunch of questions in the chat. Hold on. Let me see. No fire suppression system?
Correct. That is the answer. No suppression system. Normally you would see the nozzles hanging down right here, right? So
right.
this is basically an exhaust hood for heat. They're cooking with grease-laden vapors here. If there's a fire, nothing's going to put that fire out. What do we see here?
Let's see. Let's see. It's too close. The truck setback is not 10 feet.
Yep, your green truck right here and the white truck there basically butted up against each other. So that's no good. I think that's it. Let's see. Let's make sure. Yep, it's separation distance. What about here? What do we see?
Let's see. I think the
This
spacing answers were from the
is
one before. Let's see. Generator? Oh, no,
this.
no wheel chucks. Yep.
Yep, this is the wheel chock slide.
Gotta have
I
chucks
find
under
that one
every
a little
wheel.
weird. I find that one a little weird. I understand the food truck, the code is for the pull behind trailer, right? So it doesn't roll away. But in this situation on a flat ground, a vehicle in park, that's not gonna roll away. I might not necessarily worry about that, but it's in the code, so expect the fire marshal to look for it.
And I will say on the farmers market side, most of the markets do separate the food trucks into like a food truck alley, separate from the vendor tents, etc. But markets have gotten dinged from not having, with the food trucks, not having chucks under every wheel. So even if you think it's flat, make sure your vendors have the chucks under every wheel. It's not worth getting dinged for. Let's see. Now somebody says there's no tank protection on this picture.
They are correct. That is basically just a bomb waiting to go off when someone rear ends you.
No, thank you.
This one, and when I do this class down at the conferences with all the fire marshals from all around the state, we get into some concerns with this one.
Let me see. Spacing again?
Yeah,
No?
this is a spacing. So the code, you're technically supposed to, per the code, separate the trailer from the truck. It's supposed to be spaced. A lot of people work off their truck. They'll have, stuff in the back and they like to keep it connected. And of course it's easier and less likely to roll away and all that stuff.
Yep.
The code says it should be that way. I think if you want to catch your $50,000 truck on fire, then that's your call. But that's what the code is right there.
And I love we've got folks that paid attention yesterday because they're talking about there's no VDH mobile unit sticker permit
Oh,
on some of these too. So
yeah. So we do have a sticker. Um, right now you will fill out the contract. The inspector will do the inspection. You'll receive a bill. If you pass your inspection, you'll receive the invoice for the inspection, and in that you will get the sticker. Once we update the website, we will be able to hand out stickers to all of our deputies that are across the state. And when they come out and do the inspection and they see you paid and they've done the inspection, they'll be able to hand you a sticker right there. Now, again, this sticker, says you've been permitted. That's not a get out of jail free card when you go from, Roanoke to Loudoun to Richmond to, Charlotte County. Depending on who's there, you might get another inspection. It's not a permit, it's an inspection just to make sure you're on the up and up, and you didn't tape your deep pat fryer that was under the hood and go, oh, it's too far away over there, so I'm gonna pull it out and sit it over here. So you're still open for inspection. So just because you're permitted through us doesn't mean you might not get another inspection. I think this might be the last one. What do we see here?
all right. And we've got some questions for you too.
Yep,
Let's see. Anybody want to tell them what's wrong with this?
this is all of them.
I was going to say it. The truck
LP,
looks a little ragged, but
you got
the
generator.
tanks.
You're too close to the vehicles. You got no wheel chocks. This is a little bit of everything. And
Oh
again,
my,
this
an
is
explosion.
a picture of an explosion, and
Yeah,
I think a couple people died in this one.
yeah.
It can happen, so you got to be on top of your setup. Again,
Well,
you're the ones working out these things. It's your livelihood, and again, I'm not going to say disparaging things about the Commonwealth's road system, but we all, drove in this morning, and when you can definitely do some damage bumping up and down the road. So you got to, every time you open that thing up and set it up, you want to make sure that you're good to go.
yeah. Yeah, I can remember living here in the area, the huge fire at the Strawberry Festival many years ago, and that was devastating. So be safe, folks. All right, we've got some questions for you. The use of toaster ovens. So we have a vendor that doesn't have a food truck, and they're not using gas or oil. They're using a toaster oven that they're plugging in under a tent to toast up croissants in a toaster to warm them up, etc. What are the requirements besides having y'all inspect to make sure the cords and everything are right? Are there
Well,
any kind of requirements for that?
I don't think there's a croissant toaster section in the fire prevention code.
Yeah.
I would just advise that maybe have it sitting on a non-combustible surface. It might get hot on the plastic table or something. And if it's electric and you're using it as intended, I don't think you're going to find a fire marshal that has many issues with that.
Yeah. And I highly encourage all of the market managers that are here. I know most of you do this anyway, but invite your local fire marshal to come to the market and do a walkthrough prior to your market opening. And that way you can just deal with all of the issues regarding cords and space heaters and gas tanks and all of that before the market opens and it becomes an issue. I know fire extinguishers are always an issue, and we ask all of our market managers to have fire extinguishers at their tent. I know that all of the tents that cook have to have fire extinguishers, etc. Can you tell me what the code is regarding fire extinguishers?
Well, you're going to need, if you're cooking with anything with grease, you're going to need a K extinguisher.
And
Um, Normally your 10-pound ABC would be suffice to have, just in various locations, if you're not cooking with grease. And
and
that's
tell
going
me,
to cover that's going to cover your ABC, and I mean that's going to cover your combustible materials, your electrical
Yeah.
fires, and your liquid fires.
And tell me, and I'm sorry, I'm typing the answer so that we can print it out. I'm typing it in the Q&A for you. Tell me exactly what that extinguisher is called. I know it's a specific type. What did you say?
Oh, a 10-pound ABC. They come in various sizes. Um,
You said
that's kind of
K?
a universal
Okay.
ABC.
ABC. Okay, a 10-pound ABC extinguisher. All right. I know we gave a bunch out at our conference a couple of years ago. All right, frying under the tent. What do they need to do if they're frying under the tent?
So your tent needs to be rated basically um, meets 701, NFPA 701. It'll be labeled as such. And just basically have your
701.
separation and keep your combustibles away. It depends on if it's a standalone fryer or not. If it's a tabletop fryer, you might want to have it on a non-combustible table. But basically just keep your separation from everyone else. I know VDH, I think, has rules and regulations about cooking under
Yes.
tents. You got to have the food
Yes.
covered and all that jazz.
Yes. Yep. Yes, they have, and they're on this call. They have very strict regulations.
And if you're cooking under a tent on a really regular basis, you're going to want to just monitor the tent itself, make sure it's structurally sound and not grease, uh, you know, building up on it as you're cooking.
Mhm.
That's when the problems will ensue. So maybe wipe down the tent every so often, keep it clean. But there's not a lot of regulations for that.
Okay. What is the tent rating? What did you say the tent rating was?
I
701?
think NFPA 701, I think. Let me double check.
Is it right?
NFPA.
I think all the tents are rated that now, aren't they? Well, no, I guess not. I guess some of the art
Not
tents
for
and
you
stuff
guys.
aren't,
It's
but
not necessary if you're selling, honey and you
right,
just need a
right.
pop-up, Walmart tent, then
Yeah.
that's fine. Or you're selling crafts.
Yeah. Jessica Klemensick with VDH.
Hey, hi Troy, good to see ya.
Good to see you as well.
I'm glad we're talking about the tents because this has come up as a question. For us, we require, overhead protection for food preparation. Um, and something came up to me last week. A local health district had asked about kettle corn roasters and being under a tent. And I guess they had some conflicting information where one of the local fire marshals said it can't be under the tent, whereas we would require that under the tent. But we would defer to whatever the fire regulations are. But it sounds like the fire regulations that we're discussing today, it really only pertains to the mobile food units. So, do the local, if there's a local fire marshal, are there going to be like local codes that maybe the local codes don't allow cookers under a tent?
I'm guessing they could set their own standards. It's to my knowledge, it's not in the statewide fire prevention code. Thought you were going to say because I've had a back and forth with the kettle corn. There's some that are trailers, and it's in a food truck. It's a truck, and if you've ever seen one of these, it's a massive pot. They use gas, cook with oil, but it's a very small, minute amount. And they were like, "Do we need a suppression system?" Which they don't make a suppression system for a kettle corn machine. And some fire marshals said yay, some fire marshals said nay. I've always said nay. They literally use like 2 tablespoons of oil when they're cooking with it, and basically it goes away as they're cooking the corn. Um, so no, we don't have an issue with it. That's not to say you won't meet a fire marshal out there that does. Look, I can't vouch for all fire marshals. I'm not going to do that.
Thank
All right.
you. Thanks for clarifying.
Thank you so much.
Well, I
We
hope that clarified. I mean, unfortunately, you guys like us, you're across the state, you're going to come across with a lot of different people, a lot of different ideas and attitudes about the code. It's up for interpretation, so you never know what you're going to get out there.
And we will at VAFMA attach, we have the state fire code regarding, we have the info on tents, on fire extinguishers. We will pull that. We also have, like a boilerplate emergency plan that y'all can put together. So we will include that in all of the information that we provide as a resource for this, just as we did last year. We do have another question for clarification. Can you clarify if they can have a food truck 10 feet away and use an oil fryer under the tent?
Yes. Yeah, you can cook under a tent. You can there's no kitchen hood system. There's no suppression system required under a tent.
Okay.
It's only in the food truck.
Okay.
So if your suppression system's outdated or malfunctioned in your food truck and you want to just set a tent up 10 feet away and cook and then bring your food in and then sell it out of the food truck, you can do that.
Okay. And have your fire extinguishers on the front leg of your tent so that you can get to it at all times. Don't have it packed in a box somewhere.
When you're cooking, if you have a deep fryer, we see a lot at the fair and stuff like that where they'll have the standalone deep fryers, and they'll to meet VDH standards, they'll be covered, but they'll be pushed up to the edge so the exhaust is venting outside of the tent. But yeah, they deep fry under tents a lot, and it's not really a problem. The problem is, and that's because if it catches fire out there, under a tent, you can egress. It's not an issue. It's not like in an enclosed space like a mobile food preparation vehicle.
Right. And Jessica, if you or Whitney are still with us, is there a VDH issue regarding using oil under a tent?
Not for us.
Okay.
No, we really defer all fire requirements to, I guess, the local fire official. So we defer to them because we are not trained in the fire regulations. So I know when I worked at the local health department here in Hampton, Hampton Fire Marshal would go to every event and do their, do a walkthrough and look for fire extinguishers and distances and things like that. So we tell people, make sure if you're cooking under your tent, it needs to be fire rated. And if you have questions, talk to your local fire marshal.
And that's cooking with oil, but if you're cooking with flame, that needs to not be under the tent. Is that correct?
No, you can cook with flame under it. You can cook with anything under a tent.
Okay. All right. We have a question here in the chat where they say their local fire marshal told them they need a fire suppression system under the tent.
Well, if they are the AHJ, then they are the AHJ, and I cannot supersede them, unfortunately. Maybe ask to see an example of that. How are you going to hang a suppression system from the inside of a tent when you're only there for a few hours?
And a fire extinguisher wouldn't qualify as that, right?
I'm guessing not in that case is what they're not what they're talking of. My mentality and everyone that works for State Fire Marshal's office, our mentality is we're trying to we want to make every event happen. We like to say yes more than no. And there's tends to be ways around it, whether we need spacing, distance, make some, still be within the code, make everything safe, because we want the event to go off and we want everybody to go home safely. And we pride ourselves in working with people and stuff like that. Again, I can't vouch for all fire marshals out there. You're probably going to come across a few that are a little unsavory, and I apologize for that. I've never seen I've never seen a suppression system under the hood, under a tent.
I think one of the things that's confusing here in the Commonwealth, and I say this with no disrespect, but we have federal law, then we have state law, and then we have local. And so you have to meet the federal requirements, and then you have to meet the state requirements, and then local can have even more requirements. And we see that quite a bit. We see it in the Department of Health, we see it with the fire marshals, et cetera. And so it creates confusion. That's folks want to do the right thing, and they want to be safe, and they want to be able to have a successful business and have a successful event, but they get so many
Well,
conflicting answers,
it's
makes it tough.
it's not a problem unless you're in the game of going all over, which is the game you're in.
And
Unfortunately, like if
that
you're going to
is,
set up shop in one locality, it's not a problem. But
yeah,
farmers markets, food trucks, these are varying everywhere you go. And
right.
people ask all the time about like, how do we track the food trucks? And I have to be honest, like we can't. Like
Yeah,
we got them coming across the state line from North Carolina, West Virginia, Kentucky. I'm like I say it's like trying to count the number of mosquitoes around the campfire in the summer. Like they're coming and going. Like it's a task that's not even possible. And you guys, to be successful, you gotta move. You can't just set up your farmers market in the same spot every week. I know you do, but your vendors try to jump around a little bit, and they have to educate themselves on all the localities, and some
that's
are
right.
better than others. And
And
I know
that's
it's
right. And
frustrating.
it gets even more confusing when you're down in the Southwest region where you border a bunch of others, or up in DC, up towards Northern Virginia, where you border other states and those regs too. So, my best advice is to know what the state regs are, and then look and see what your local regs are. And the challenge is, like in my area, we have vendors that, like, we have folks that produce sausage, for example, and sell bulk sausage, but then they also cook sausage biscuits. What a great way to promote your sausage that you sell, as to have the cooked products at the market. And they're at markets.
Never had a bad one at a farmer's market. I don't
Never
know what it
ever.
is.
Oh,
Never
they're
had a
just,
bad one.
it's something about cooking it out at that market. It's amazing. And they sell it, multiple markets throughout the state. And so you've got to follow the regs in each of those local areas. And so just because you've been told something in Richmond, one thing in Richmond, that doesn't mean it's the same thing if you're up in Manassas, Virginia. You need to check with the Manassas offices for Department of Health, Fire Marshal, et cetera, and check it out. And we can help guide you, or the state can also. Any last
Well, that's like
let's
another
see.
one of the things I'm in charge of is all the fireworks that are sold in the Commonwealth. So I deal with a lot of distributors, and they ship a lot of product to me, and we test it, a percentage of it, and then I make a list and we shoot it out. And we all know Virginia is one of the states that does not allow the cool fireworks, the stuff that shoots up in the air. And then each locality has their own regulations. Where I live in Chesterfield, for example, you can't have sparklers.
Right.
You can't have anything. And I
Yeah.
can tell you where I live, when you go outside on 4th of July, you see fireworks in the air,
Yeah.
and they can't police it. It's really out of hand, and they're really dangerous. But the next county over sells fireworks. They're the same
Right.
stuff that we regulate and say is okay to use. But
Right.
just like people travel to Tennessee to buy the illegal ones, or travel down South Carolina, it's just really hard to get a grip on. And they've
Yeah.
been pushing it through legislature to start selling the stuff that goes boom up in the air. And I think we're not too far away from allowing it, and then that'll
Goodness.
change what I have to do on a weekly basis.
Um, Circling back to close the loop on the fire suppression systems, there's the attendee that was told by the vendor that was told by their local fire marshal that they need a fire suppression system is asking, are there recommendations on companies that they can reach out to that do that?
That's a great question. I get that question all of the time, and Unfortunately, I am not allowed to tell you who to use. There are great companies out there and there are awful companies out there. I cannot recommend anyone because then it would look like I maybe work
As
for
a
them,
state
get
employee,
kickbacks or
right?
something like that. I would just say do your research, Google it, talk to your peers, but there's a very wide range of people that do it, and unfortunately, I wish I could because
We understand.
um, I wish I could because I would save a lot of people a lot of headache and heartache. And something else I've seen in my years of doing this job, when you do have a suppression system, I noticed that the companies that inspect them, they used to be proactive. They used to call you and say, "Hey, you're getting ready to come up for inspection. When do you want to schedule it?" And in my years in the field, I would come across outdated systems, and this would be a sprinkler system or a kitchen hood system or a fire alarm system. And the owner, and I would believe the owner, they would say, "What?" And I didn't know it was outdated. They didn't call me. And I said,
Yeah.
"Well, here's how it is now. Like they used to call you, but they're really busy now, and it's not their responsibility to make sure your system, whether it be sprinkler, kitchen hood, fire alarm. It's not as the owner, you're the responsible party. So set a reminder on your phone. It's real
Right.
easy. That 6 months will fly by and you won't realize it. And you'll be setting up, and then a fire marshal will pop his head in there, his or her head in there, and say, you haven't been inspected almost a year. That fire marshal might work with you. The fire marshal might shut you down. So when that suppression system gets inspected, set a reminder on your phone, do something to help remind you because it does happen a lot where the companies themselves aren't drumming up the business like they once did. I think they're getting pulled a little too thin, having trouble getting workers and stuff like that. So you want to stay on top of them. They shouldn't have to stay on top of you.
I think that's great advice. As in anything, you are the one, you as the vendor, you as the individual, you as the market manager that is running the retail business, you as the vendor that is selling your retail product to consumers, you are the one that is ultimately responsible, ultimately liable. And so that burden falls on you for anything at the farmer's market that you are doing everything and being compliant. We're just giving you all of these different resources that are here, and you just need to stay on top of them. You're running a business, and the ultimate responsibility of your business's success falls on you. So I appreciate that timely reminder. Troy, it's been depressing. No, it's been great to have you here as always. We have seen over the past several years more and more food trucks at the farmers markets as well as cooking under the tents. And I am so pleased to see that after we started this webinar series 6 years ago, I have seen markets change the layout regarding cooking at their markets and making it much, not only becoming compliant, but making it much safer and easier for all of these different venues. So thank you for being here with us again this year. I really appreciate it. And all of the information. If you would make sure that you send me your presentation so we can provide that to folks to have as a resource, and any other resources you can think of that would be valid, we'd be happy to link to those. And appreciate your being here. Thank you
Well,
being here with us.
I love what y'all are doing, and I appreciate the invite, and I'm glad I could be of service. I'm glad I
Thank you
could fit
so
in
much.
with the all the drama going on here today. So,
I appreciate it so much. Thank you for that we were able to work it out. I really appreciate it. I've had a couple of moments here. I guess there's a lot of movement going on in the different departments at the state right this at this time,
yeah.
and I really appreciate you making the effort and moving your schedule around to do this for us. So thank you so
Well,
much.
I'm not going anywhere for at least another 4 years and 4 months. So,
All right.
all
I love it. Well, we will see you again next year, if not before. But in the meantime,
right.
thank you so much. And folks, call your local fire marshal and have them come out and check and make sure that you're doing everything correctly. Or if you're a vendor and want to cook in your tent, call the local fire marshal office, call your local fire department and ask them what you need to do. For the gentleman that, or the person, excuse me, the vendor that was looking for a recommendation for a fire suppression system, call your local fire marshal and say, I'm cooking at a market and, you know, you told me I need to have a fire suppression system. Where can I get that? Who do you recommend? Or can you give me some recommendations? And maybe they can do that. I know on a state perspective, that would be hard for Troy to do. So we're going to jump back into the food side of things now, and we're going to talk about meat and poultry. So I've got Susan Miller. Susan, are you with us?
Good. Yes.
Yay. Susan has been doing inoculations today, so I appreciate your being with us. Susan is also a farmer and has been busy on her farm, as a lot of you all have been this week. Susan is the veterinary supervisor, the Office of Meat and Poultry Services at the Department of Agriculture and the Virginia Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services. Susan, I appreciate your being here, and I'm going to turn it over to you, and I will check the chat for you.
Okay, can you help me a little bit on how to share my screen?
Yes, there should be a button at the bottom that's green and says share.
Yeah, I don't have that.
You don't have that. Do you want to send me your presentation?
Okay.
Are you on your computer?
Yes.
Hey, Kim.
All right. Yes.
My button isn't green. It just, on the bottom, it's share, and it's in a rectangle box with an arrow pointing up.
Okay.
I don't know if that's helpful.
Yep, I do have that. Thank you so much.
Oh,
yeah.
Thank you, Jessica. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh, Jessica. I owe you guys so much. I owe
No,
you lunch or something.
I Google it as well. I don't use Zoom that often. With the state, we use Teams. So
Right. Well, and this is a different Zoom platform than we normally use. It's a huge web-based platform to be able to accommodate all of the panelists as well as all of the participants, and it's different. Okay, you're in power. You're in, I'm seeing your side, your view with all the slides on it. There you go.
all right.
All right.
Apologies. Okay. All right. Yes, as Kim said, I am the supervisory veterinarian for VDACS Office of Meat and Poultry Services. So today I'm going to do a brief overview of requirements for selling meat and poultry products in Virginia. And you have to bear with me a little. I'm not the usual presenter. I did present last year as our program analyst was on vacation, and this year she is retired, and we have not filled that position yet. So you may see someone new from OMPS next year. So there are certain meat and poultry products in Virginia that must be inspected to be offered for wholesale or to be used in the production of retail products or by restaurants. Products that are required to be inspected are those from what we call amenable species. The amenable species are cattle, swine, sheep, goats, and poultry. There's a wide variety of amenable poultry, and those include chickens, turkeys, ducks, geese, guineas, and squab. In addition, if the product contains 3% raw meat or 2% cooked meat or poultry, and it's offered for wholesale, it must also be inspected. So the term wholesale, you will hear me mention that a lot, and that the term, whether it's wholesale or retail, makes a difference in who regulates the sales of those products. So there are two types of inspection in Virginia. There's our state inspection program, and there's also federal inspection. Products inspected by Department of Agriculture, Office of Meat and Poultry Services are state inspected, and they may only be sold within the state of Virginia, so they cannot cross state lines. You can't sell to North Carolina, West Virginia, anywhere but Virginia. Products inspected by the USDA Food Safety Inspection Service are federally inspected, and they may be sold nationally or across state lines and exported as well. And we'll talk a little later about how you can determine which is state inspected, which is federal inspected. So some meat can be sold without inspection. Non-amenable species do not require inspection, and those include things like bison, farm-raised deer, rabbit, and even things like llamas and alpaca. Though they do not require inspection to be sold, they may, to the retail consumer, they may need to be inspected to be purchased. So for instance, even though we don't require them to be inspected to be sold, the restaurant you're selling to or the retail store that's buying from you or the farmer's market's requirements may require that you have them inspected. And we'll discuss this in a bit too. Inspected meat that is further processed in a retail store or restaurant also does not need inspection. So that would fall under Office of Dairy and Foods. However, this is still regulated by ODF and the health department. And finally, meat and poultry products sold directly to retail consumers do not require inspection, but the meat used in these products must be from an inspected source. Examples of this are like your retail butcher shops, farmers markets. These are also regulated by other agencies. Though farmers market sales are directly to the retail consumer, you'll have to remember too that there may be stipulations for inspection by the individual market itself. So let's talk a little bit about poultry sold without inspection. There are exemptions that allow poultry products to be sold without being inspected. Exemptions means they're exempt from bird-by-bird inspection, but in the presence of an inspector, but they're not exempt completely from all inspection. There are still some requirements, even when you're under an inspection exemption for poultry. Some of these requirements include that the bird must be healthy when it's slaughtered. The slaughter and processing must be conducted under sanitary standards, practices, and procedures, so that the poultry produced is sound, clean, and fit for human food. It's not adulterated. The poultry must be labeled correctly and identified as an exempt product, and the label must include the processor's name, address, the exemption statement, and safe handling instructions. The business or person can only operate under one exemption during each calendar year. So the next slide, I'll show you the exemptions. You'll see there's many, but you just have to remember, if you're going to claim an exemption, you can only claim one per calendar year. The product also cannot bear the official USDA mark of inspection. So it can only have the exemption statement on it with the required other required labeling features that cannot have your inspection legend. Also, poultry products produced under exemptions cannot move across state lines, so they can only be sold within Virginia. These exemptions require an application for permit and an initial facility visit. The permit must be renewed annually, and you're going to get annual inspections as well. So here's the different lists of or different types of inspection exemptions. You'll see there that there are 2 exemptions for personal use and 4 exemptions for producer growers and small businesses. These exemptions are classified, as you can see, based on volume, also classified on ownership of the bird, live bird, processes, whether it's slaughter or processing, and the intended use. Each exemption is very detailed, has lots of caveats, and each has stipulations and limitations. I would probably use my entire time slot if I went into the limitations, stipulations, and details of each of these. So the best, I've provided a number there, which I'll also provide to Kim, phone number, and there's an email address at the end too, would be the best bet to reach out for your specific questions on those exemptions. But again, just know that you can only operate under one of those exemptions per calendar year, and products cannot cross state lines to be sold. So who can sell meat or poultry to restaurants or to retail stores? As mentioned previously, though some meat doesn't have an inspection requirement to be sold, the purchaser has an inspection requirement to buy it or use it, and this includes the restaurants and retail stores. So restaurants and retail stores have to start with meat that comes from an inspected source. Anyone who has had their product processed at a USDA, FSIS, or the VDACS OMPS inspected facility may sell to a restaurant or a retail store. Restaurants and retail stores also have requirements for the use of non-immutable species like bison and rabbits and poultry produced under an exemption. You should check with the locality and the appropriate or regulatory authorities such as the health department or ODF for specifics on the sale of non-immutable or poultry exempt products at or to facilities such as restaurants and retail stores. So what are the requirements for selling meat and poultry at farmers markets? To sell meat and poultry at farmers markets, you should first check with the individual market and their requirements. Meat and poultry that has been state or federally inspected or under a poultry exemption may sell at a Virginia farmers market. A meat handler's permit may be required. It is not, the meat handler's permit is not required by our office. However, it may be required by your farmer's market. And we will come give you a meat handler's permit, even though we may not require it if you've requested one. And even if, again, even if it's not required, even though the sales you're doing wouldn't necessarily require a permit. If you request one, the compliance officer from Meat and Poultry will come out and issue you a permit. This permit requires inspection for sanitation, and it also has additional record keeping components. Meat and poultry products sold directly to retail customers under the regulation of ODF and Virginia Department of Health may also be sold at farmers markets. And farmers markets, as we all know, are subject to the Virginia Food and Drink Law and related regulations. So as I mentioned earlier, we talked about inspected product having an inspection legend and how you can distinguish which is state inspected and which is federal inspected. So again, products will bear a specific legend identifying them as inspected meat or poultry. Red meat will have the circular legend on the label that you see on the top left. Poultry will have a legend on the label shown on the top right. So it's also circular, but you'll note there's a P prior to the establishment number within that legend. And the bottom legend is our state inspection legend for VDACS OMPS facilities. Again, those can only be sold within Virginia. So what about rabbit meat? Though there's no inspection requirement to sell rabbit meat, like bison, there's also none. There may be requirements that it be inspected in order for it to be purchased. These include, again, restaurants, retail stores, and farmers markets. They may require the source of that rabbit to be inspected. So Virginia has two types of inspection for rabbits. First is the voluntary inspection that we discussed earlier, and it's provided by USDA FSIS if you want to distribute rabbit across the state line. If you want to just sell rabbit within Virginia, you could do it at an OMPS inspected facility. This is an inspection of the facility and every carcass that's slaughtered, and it requires an on-site inspector for the entire process. There's also an hourly rate or an hourly fee for this service. Virginia has one more option that other states don't have to be able to sell rabbit meat. VDACS, Office of Dairy and Foods, Office of Meat and Poultry Services, and Virginia Department of Health have developed a special inspection program that allows for the sale of rabbit meat to Virginia restaurants, retailers, and farmers markets. So this was a collaborative effort put together by these three organizations in order to be able to sell rabbit meat that was not voluntarily inspected. This program, as I mentioned, is unique to Virginia, though it doesn't require carcass by carcass inspection and the presence of an inspector. It's similar to the poultry exemptions in that there are requirements for facility inspection, sanitation, and labeling. This program is conducted in accordance with the Virginia food laws. It requires an application, permit, and an annual renewal with fee. This program is not necessarily honored by other states, so if you plan to sell your rabbit meat outside of Virginia to another restaurant or somewhere else, you will need to check with that state regulatory authority on whether the meat from the Virginia rabbit program is acceptable for that state. And finally, can you sell meat from harvested from hunting? Unfortunately, meat harvested from wild game, birds, and animals cannot be sold for food. We do have establishments that do custom services where the hunter brings their animal and they get the meat back. That's a exemption in itself, but that meat cannot be sold to other individuals. In order to sell deer meat, the animals must be domestically raised for the meat to be sold. And again, here is our phone number and the email address that you can contact if you have questions, as well as I will try to answer a few that you may have here today.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Any questions for Susan? Okay. Well, of course, we always get this. And so happy that it was the first question. Can we get some clarification on the poultry exemptions? So the example they give is, so a farmer can only choose one exemption from the list that was on the slide, meaning a farmer can't have some of their own consumption and to sell at a farmer's market?
So
that's correct.
They're more than welcome to, to slaughter and process birds for their own consumption.
Right.
Yes, and then just as it would be a home butcher type of any other nature. I mean,
Right.
you know, as an individual, if I have an animal that I want to do a home butcher for, yes, you can. But for
Okay.
the
And
other, yeah, to be able to sell it, you can only declare one of those exemptions: the 10,000, the 20,000, and the small business. It may have been the personal use exemption.
right,
So
right.
that is where you may actually, you know, if you have the equipment and ability to do small batches of birds, your neighbor may want to bring 5 or 10 birds of his raising over to you, and you would just you know, do the process of slaughtering and processing and give them back to him. So all you're really providing is a service. You're not providing him the animal. He's bringing his own bird over, and then he's taking his own meat back. So that's more so the personal use exemption that we talk about.
Okay. Can a person have both a personal use exemption as well as the exemption to sell at the farmer's market?
No, from my
No. Okay.
understanding, it's just one.
Okay. Okay. You can only declare one exemption. All right. I'm just typing the answers in here. Sorry, give me a second. So, if you have an animal processed, how do sales and inspection work with that? Example, you raise the hog, but someone else processes it.
Okay, repeat that question again. Sorry.
Okay, sorry. If you have an animal processed, how do the sales and inspection work? So, for example, the farmer has raised the hog, but they send it to someone else to process it. It comes back and then they're selling it.
Yes, correct. So several of our establishments in this area that we inspect, that is their primary business, is that they will take animals produced from other farmers, and they're
Yes.
slaughter processing it. They package it, and of course they label it for you with the appropriate requirements on the label, including the inspection legend. They are able to put your farm name on the label. However, the inspection legend, which is the circular legend we saw in the one slide, will have their plant number in it. So that's kind of their fingerprint for
Okay.
the, yes. So then you can sell that type of product if it has the inspection legend on it. You can sell it wholesale and retail.
Okay, so the processor has their info on an inspection legend on label, and that allows you to sell it wholesale and retail.
Correct. Yes.
And
Yeah.
that allows, okay, you to, sorry, wholesale and retail. All right. Okay, thank you very much for the clarification. Can you clarify whether selling parts is considered adulterated? Can a vendor sell wings or thighs, etc., under the exemption?
That would probably, I'm gonna direct you to our email for that. Again, I'm not really versed in those poultry exemptions. That's actually the part of our program analyst. So I hate to answer those questions and give you the wrong answer.
Okay. So it's OMPS at Virginia at VDACS.
At VDACS.virginia.gov.
VDACS.virginia.gov. Okay.
Again, because those exemptions, I'm pretty sure there are stipulations in there based on selling birds, selling parts, and yeah, and I would hate to give the wrong answer.
Okay, so please email question to. And VDACS has several positions open if anybody's interested on this call. Some of y'all are very, very knowledgeable. Let's see. Okay, OMPS at VDACS.virginia.gov. All right, the next question is, so if it is legal to process and sell poultry at the markets, is the inspection for the farm and not the processing?
The processing occurs at the farm. You're just bringing a packaged labeled product to the farmer's market.
Processing occurs at the farm, just bringing packaged product to the market. Okay. Yeah, we're not doing any processing at the market. Let's see, just bringing.
Yeah, if you're considered processing cooking, that obviously wouldn't fall under meat inspection. That may be what they're wondering, if that might be the question at hand.
So we're talking about raw product.
Yes, correct.
All right, just bringing processed raw packaged product. I know it's come up in the past, and I hesitant to bring it up again, but it seems to come up every year regarding the folks that take that have the poultry exemption and then do broth with the poultry exemption, and does that fall under the exemption or not? And just to make sure that it's still, that the rules are still the same. If the broth has products that are added to it, then that needs to fall under food safety. Is that still okay?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Any other questions? We had a question prior, and I know it was covered yesterday, but I'll bring it up just in case. Do you have any knowledge on eggs? I know that Rochelle brought that up in her presentation, but talking about poultry, about selling eggs at markets?
I do not.
Okay, yeah. All right, I will refer the individual that asked the question back to yesterday's slides. Yesterday's presentation is already up on YouTube. If you want to take a quick look and get that information, watching the YouTube video does not qualify for the certification. You need to go through the university and take the quiz. But if you do want that, the answer to that question, you can watch Rochelle Bland's presentation yesterday from, it was one of the beginning presentations with VDACS, and she addresses eggs and has the slides. We will also have that information on our website within the next 2 weeks, so that you will be able to review the presentation decks, et cetera, and have that information for your future use. Any questions, any other questions for the Office of Meat and Poultry Inspection? I don't see any others coming in. It looks like you answered all of those, Susan. Thank you so much. I appreciate you being with us today. And especially knowing what you had to do to walk away from what you were in the process to come and make this presentation. Thank you so much. I so appreciate it.
And I apologize. I may not be as versed in the information I know you guys ask, and hopefully I knew we do have a new program analyst starting May 10th, and he came from Office of Dairy and Food, so he will be actually really, really good at probably being able to utilize the information from both sides for next year. So
oh, well, that's great. Well, but we love having you too. You're a farmer, and every piece of the cow anyway, so we appreciate all your information and support. And if anybody has any additional questions for the Office of Meat and Poultry, Carolyn's email address, omps@vdacs.virginia.gov. If she doesn't have the answer, she'll get it, or you can reach out to me and I will track down the information through VDACS for you. Susan, thank you so much for being with us today. I really appreciate it. And I want to thank everybody. I want to thank all of our presenters again, all of the folks that have been with us for 2 days and one more to go. Very exciting, as well as all of our supporters. I want to thank you, and I look forward to seeing you back here tomorrow. Tomorrow we will start at 9. We have 3 presentations tomorrow. We have dairy services. We have Virginia Alcohol Beverage Control. We'll be talking about alcoholic beverages, boozy food products, tinctures, doing wine tastings, things of that sort at the market. Always a lively conversation. I think there's kombucha and products that continue to alkalize as they sit on the shelves, and where that all falls under ABC. Egg sales were covered under VDACS. So under food safety, under VDACS. So if you have any specific questions, Tyler, send them to me and I can either answer them or I can get the answer from VDACS for you. What specific question did you have, Tyler, regarding egg sales? In addition to dairy services and Virginia ABC, we also are going to have our tremendous partners and cohorts from the Virginia Cooperative Extension, and Lester Schoenberger and Melissa Wright will be with us tomorrow, and they will be covering all of the amazing work that the Virginia Cooperative Extension is doing out at Virginia Tech. They'll talk about their processing labs. They will answer any questions that you have. They have the Going to Market document. They will also talk about some of the trainings that they do. The Cooperative Extension, not under Lester, well, I guess maybe under Lester, they also do the ServSafe certification, and they do it in different languages. Okay, so Tyler, I will get that information for you, and I will make sure that we have that information. I think it's in the slide. It's on one of the slides that was presented yesterday. So we'll track that information down for you. So I look forward to having Virginia Tech with us, the cooperative extension with us tomorrow. And if you have any thoughts or questions regarding anything that you've seen so far, or regarding the products that will be discussed tomorrow, please come prepared to share. And tomorrow's webinar is probably not going to last until 12. Nursery Services, unfortunately, is not available to participate. They've had a conflict and are not going to be able to participate tomorrow. And so I do have their presentation. Nothing has changed in the law in that department, which is lovely. And so I will have that included with all of the other presentations for anybody that's selling live plants and wants to know whether you need to be permitted, et cetera. So we will probably be done early tomorrow, which or prior to 12. So thank you all for being with us today, and I look forward to seeing you all tomorrow at 9 a.m. Thank you, and have a good day.